either before Cleveland or at the convention in Cleveland. Together, we will win a majority of the delegates, and together, we will beat Hillary Clinton in November.
Next on Newsmax Prime, with his Wisconsin win, Ted Cruz sounds confident, but do the delegate numbers support his words? Plus, what are we to make of the words uttered by the RNC chairman? Is the GOP hierarchy hoping for a brokered convention in Cleveland? Also ahead, more insight into the pure evil that is ISIS. Those terrorists have composed a kill list of Americans. Are we doing anything in response? And what would be the right course of action? Newsmax Prime starts right now. Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday night edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, on past Wisconsin. Badger State voters made their picks yesterday, opting for Texas Senator Ted Cruz in the GOP primary. Now it's on to New York, Donald Trump's home state. And will it be home sweet home for the Donald? Miranda Kahn has more.
JD, Ted Cruz cruised to victory last night in Wisconsin, defeating Donald Trump by a 13-point margin. The Texas senator insists that his win marks a turning point in the campaign.
Tonight is a turning point. It is a rallying cry. It is a call from the hardworking men and women of Wisconsin to the people of America. We have a choice, a real choice.
New York voters get to make their choice in 13 days. In New York, Donald Trump holds a decisive lead. Real Clear Politics has averaged all the polls for the Empire State, and it puts the Trump margin at 32 percentage points. Suffice it to say, Cruz overtaking Trump is a tall order. But this morning on MSNBC's Morning Joe, host Joe Scarborough said Cruz faces an even more daunting task at the convention in Cleveland.
The guy is loathed, and he is loathed inside D.C. in a way that Donald Trump is not loathed. I mean, I know a lot of the establishment hates Donald Trump, but Ted Cruz is the devil that they know, and they don't like him. He's not going to win the nomination.
Whatever awaits Cruz in Cleveland, RNC Chairman Reince Priebus sounds unconcerned about Trump bolting the GOP. Here's what he told Milwaukee talk show host Charlie Sykes yesterday.
I'm not concerned about it.
Why not?
Because I think, well, first of all, there are 44 state loser laws in place. You cannot qualify as a Republican or a Democrat in a state like Ohio and 44 other states and turn around and say, okay, well, I made the ballot here, but now I'm going to turn around and run as an independent.
But is it possible Chairman Priebus and the GOP establishment are acting independently against the will of the voters and pushing for a nominee other than Trump or Cruz? That's a conspiracy theory that continues to float around among many grassroots conservatives, and it's one that doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon. JD, back to you.
Thanks, Miranda. For more on this story, we're pleased to be joined by Dick Morris, Skyping in tonight from Connecticut. Dick, also the co-author of the bestseller Power Grab, Obama's Dangerous Plan for a One-Party Nation. And joining us via telephone, former Republican presidential candidate and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Gentlemen, thanks to you both for your time here tonight on Newsmax Prime. So Ted Cruz was in New York earlier today and was speaking with a little more pep in his step. Dick, was this in fact a major turning point, as the senator says it was?
Yes, I believe it was. But the important thing is that, in effect, Wisconsin was a state Trump was supposed to win. This is the first northeastern industrial state that Cruz has won. So it's kind of like he broke Trump's service, you know, like in tennis, and gives him a tremendous advantage in the match.
Mike, you know, you take a look at this thing, and Donald Trump remains in the news. He was back in New York. He didn't do a speech. He did release this statement. Let me quote it to you. Donald J. Trump withstood the onslaught of the establishment yet again. Lion Ted Cruz had the governor of Wisconsin, many conservative talk radio hosts, and the entire party apparatus behind him. Ted Cruz is worse than a puppet. He is a Trojan horse being used by the party bosses attempting to steal the nomination from Mr. Trump. Now, I'm curious, Mike, with this whole situation. Dick Morris last night on Newsmax TV said Donald Trump was starting to implode. Do you agree with that assessment, Mike?
I don't know that he's imploding, but I do think that that was ill-advised for him to make that kind of statement as a concession. Dick Morris is one of my old political mentors, and I'm pretty sure he would have advised me to give a magnanimous speech to congratulate Cruz, even though it's a painful thing to lose, but to say, look, we didn't do what we needed to do to win in Wisconsin. We congratulate the senator, but this is the last time I'm going to have to congratulate him. I expect he'll have to congratulate me from this point forward. That would have been the way he could have handled that and shown a little class, and I just think that he's had two very, very bad weeks. It wasn't so much that Ted Cruz had a terrific victory as it was that Donald Trump did so many things over the past couple of weeks to take himself out. I disagree with Dick's assessment in this regard. I don't think it's the game changer that this puts Cruz on a path to get the nomination, because I think mathematically it's very difficult for him, especially looking at the states that are coming up. But the other factor is that if neither Donald Trump nor Ted Cruz go into the convention with 1237, I'm not sure that either one of them will end up being able to be the nominee, given that there's going to be so many people looking for an alternative to either one of them. And I think that is where the implosion comes, the implosion of the GOP convention.
Wow, let's let that sink in for a second, because that has been the concern amongst a lot of the grassroots conservatives. Dick, do you stand by the implosion remarks concerning Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously cracking under the pressure. I mean, in 1 week, he called for the elimination of NATO, the repeal of the Geneva Convention, giving Japan and North and South Korea the atomic bomb, and women punished for abortion, all kinds of stuff. But let me address Mike's comments. Between now and the New York primary, April 19th, Cruz will pick up about another net gain of 80 delegates from Colorado, North Dakota, and Wyoming that are all having conventions in that period. That'll bring him, he's now 252 behind. He's now 225 behind Trump. He'll close to within 170 of Trump. And Rubio has 170 votes. And at some point, he and Cruz are probably going to join forces, and that would bring the two candidates even. I think that Cruz is going to win primary after primary. Now, in New York, which is the next one, the issue is, does he hold Donald below 50%? And if he does, he or Kasich probably walk away with about a third of the delegates from New York. But at the same time, he's now close to within 5 in Pennsylvania. Nobody's polled New Jersey, but I'm sure he's in strong shape there. I think he's very likely to win California. And I think that on the first ballot, Cruz and Trump, assuming that Rubio's with Cruz, will be about tied. And then they go to the second ballot.
Well, let me turn to Mike on this, because you're laying out a scenario very neat, very tidy, Mike. This whole notion that Rubio is going to take his delegates and release them to the Cruz campaign. Are you buying it?
Not yet. I mean, I just don't see that happening. It very well may. Dick is, better at the prognostication. But I think the reaction is not going to be all that positive. And one of the things that Ted is having to fight, even though he had a great victory, I don't want to do anything to take it away from him in Wisconsin. That was not only a good win, it was a great win and a huge margin. But one of the ways that Ted Cruz is putting this back together is embracing the very thing that he spent his whole time running against. And so if he's going to be the now new establishment candidate, does that, in essence, disenfranchise the very people that were supporting him, because he was going to go and challenge what he called the Washington cartel?
As we take a look at what I guess we could call campaign finance, Dick, Trump has loaned his campaign $20 million. Will he spend another 20 if it's unclear about him winning the nomination on the first ballot at the convention?
I once was a consultant for Donald Trump, and even though I was being paid by him, I didn't hold my breath before he wrote checks. I would hesitate to make that prediction now. But I believe that that there's a vast difference between beating Trump at the convention and beating him in the primaries. One is an act of theft. The other is an act of democracy. And I'm not as worried about other candidates coming in because of Rule 40B that says that unless you win a majority of the delegates in 8 states, you can't be on the convention ballot. And while the Rules Committee may or may not recommend a repeal of that rule, the convention is going to be all Trump and Cruz delegates. And they're the ones who'd have to vote to approve the rule change, and I think they certainly would not.
Well, we talk about the convention, and Mike, you mentioned it earlier, and when you go back to Reince Priebus and his appearance in Milwaukee on WTMJ with Charlie Sykes yesterday, the chairman made it pretty clear who has the final say in naming the nominee. And basically, if you don't like it, tough. Listen to this.
This is a nomination for the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. If you don't like the party, then sit down. I mean, the party is choosing a nominee.
If you don't like the party, sit down, he says. Mike, does that point to your mind to really trying to see a brokered convention in Cleveland?
I don't think that's what Reince likes, because deep down he knows that that's a train wreck. Is he a Donald Trump secret supporter? Probably not. But I doubt he's a Ted Cruz supporter either. I mean, I think there are a lot of people in the GOP establishment that are absolutely in panic mode, because if they think that the choices are going to be Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, it's like, I don't like A, I don't like B, where is C and D? And there isn't any really that have the opportunity to do it. I think it's why Kasich is staying in, hoping that if the whole thing implodes, that he would be available. The problem that Kasich has, he's not going to be going into the convention with 8 states that he won with the most delegates, and therefore, unless the rules get changed, he's in trouble. And if the rules do get changed to accommodate whether it's a John Kasich, a Paul Ryan, or anybody else, then it's going to be Katie bar the door, because you'll have people saying that it was, what's the point of having a primary? What's the point of having the process if the convention's going to get there and blow it all up and essentially just thumb their nose at all the people who voted?
Bottom line on this, gentlemen, the plot thickens. We'll talk more about it. For now, Dick Morris and Mike Huckabee, you have our thanks. Lots to think about and lots to discuss with our political panel. That panel is up next, so stay tuned.